rather than type it out and have a computer read it. I just thought that I'd talk this one out. Hopefully, you can make out my voice. I seen a thing sitting here. I've been up all night with my back, and I seen this dude with a prepper site. Me and my wife were preppers. We've been preppers for a long time. But you don't have to be the type of prepper that's preparing for the end of the world. It could just be the end of your world as you know it. We found that out. I was working at UPS making real good money. My wife's a nurse making good money. And all of a sudden I had a heart attack. 44 years old. Uh, Took months to get over it. Died on the table. Uh, Before that year was out, I got diagnosed with my first cancer, which I still have. But the thing is we'd kind of both, her and I both, even though we grew up in the country, we had kind of lullabied ourselves into the sort of mentality of most people nowadays. We couldn't skip going to the grocery store because we just simply didn't have enough food here. Well, suddenly, when your main income goes to nothing, you're kind of faced with a little bit of a hardship, actually a lot of a hardship. And so, it's not that you're prepping for the end of the world or shit, it's a fan scenario, because it could just be shit hits the fan in your life and nobody else in the world's affected unless you owe money. So anyway, we started prepping. But this dude goes to Walmart. And it's hilarious. He's going through the canned food section and he's saying, oh, buy this, buy that, buy this, buy that. If you go and you buy junk, what good does it do you to survive anything if you give yourself cancer in the process? I mean, at some point, it's just got to quit being stupid. It's not that you're buying junk. I mean, that shouldn't be where your goal is. Your goal should be to buy food, and only the food that you'll eat. That's the first point. Be selective. Right now, you have a choice. Right now, you can be selective. You won't find a Campbell soup can in this house because everything they produce is poison, and we just won't do it. So you see stuff like this, and you're going, "Wow, man, I got to have all that." And yeah, you probably do. Or you see stuff like this, you say they're really ready for it. No, they're not, because what happens when they use all this and they don't have money or a store to go buy it? What happens then? What happens when the shelf life runs out on it? I mean, if you live in the city and you can't grow a garden, that's one thing. But even then, you can go to a farmer's market and you can buy real food and take it home and process it. To me, this makes sense. Uh, Stuff like meal prepping. If you're going on a camping trip, that's fine. But if you're thinking you're going to prep this and it's going to keep you sustained, you're crazy. And everybody's got their idea of what you should be prepping. Everybody has that idea. And if you'll notice, most of the ones, the big prepper sites, they all got something they're wanting to sell you. And a lot of times it's these prepackaged MREs, ready to eat meals. Um, you'll see stuff like, if it's good enough for our troops, it's good enough for you. You know, this is junk. But let me show you what happens when you put your life into the hands of some corporation that they're supposedly packing meals to where you could survive on, little kits, and they were expensive too. Because we looked at them, but I couldn't find an ingredient list. So, whatever, needless to say, we didn't buy from them. But the thing is if you're really going to prep, then you need to learn how to preserve it. You need to learn how to grow it. And if you don't have a garden or you live in the city, maybe there's a community garden. And if there's not, there's a farmer's market somewhere close by. So if you can't grow it, you can at least learn to preserve it. You got to be able to be smart enough to replace what you use. That's the bottom line. And you've got to have a healthy choices, because yeah, it costs a little bit more to buy those things with the organic, non-GMO labels. But if you think that's expensive, you should try sitting in the chemo chair. In 2009, each time I sat in that chair, it was just like the few dollars being $10,000 per session. And I guess that's what I'm trying to get across here. And what are they trying to sell you? You know, it's this oven. If you're really in where you're going to have to bug out, do you seriously want to carry this oven on your backpack along with probably 500 other things that people have told you, oh, you got to have this, you got to have that? I mean, Lord, they got you moving the whole U-Haul. And if you're really trying to bug out and get out away from everybody, I don't think you can take a semi full of junk and not draw attention. So this site here, I mean, I've never seen it before, but this would, they've got different kinds of preppers. Uh, so that makes sense, because preppers do not all fit into one category, and they're not all prepping the same way. They're not all prepping for the same thing. With alternative weapons, one of the things to look at is a bow. As I mentioned before, the crossbow, you better have a bunch of bolts balled up, because you're not going to be able to replace them, I don't think, in time. And the same would go with a compound bow. They exert so much force and so much pressure that you're not going to be able to build an arrow to withstand it. Recurve bow, however, or the long bow, either one. But the recurve, it, push comes to shove, you can build your own arrows for that. So, a good knife, a good pistol, good bow, good shotgun, a good rifle, that, and possibly a slingshot. That's really all the defense that you need, because you may be fighting a horde of people. 1-on-1's not bad. 1-on-10's not bad if you're prepared. 1-on-100, that's a lynching. That's a mob. Not so much worried about the federal government as I am some of the crazies that would take over, and they would come crawling out of the woodwork. But anyway, books, bows, buy you some canned foods. Just make sure that they're not like cancer. And do like we do. My wife loves bacon. I love sausage. We make our own. I have a smoker, electric smoker, but I also have a wood-fired smoker. And that's another thing is redundancy. Because if the power was to go off, say an EMP struck, or for that matter, it could come from solar flare or whatever. If an EMP struck, yeah, propane still will burn, but it takes electricity to run the thing. It puts the propane in the tank. So, bon appetit until you run out. Generators, which we have 2 of those, generators are loud enough. They'll let everybody know that you have something worth getting. So, generator's good and generator's bad. Kind of like dehydrating thing. But there's a lot of, I mean, you look at some of this stuff out there. There's the next thing right here. GMO food linked to leukemia. I mean, some of the stuff that goes on today, there's part of that guy's video. This is the crap he's buying, thinking that he's really preparing for I just say it, kept saying it and spelling the same thing. He's buying for a shit hits the fan scenario. He's not. He's buying out of either fear or ignorance. It's just stupid. It's kind of like the guy that said, "Oh, you should always take 2 cell phones with you." Well, say the government went rogue, or the government's overtaken by a rogue thing. Do you really want cell phone tracking and letting your location be known? I mean, come on, folks. That ain't even real. The dude sat back, smoked a cigar, and again a go butt. And a lot of these sites too, these survival sites, like I said, they're gonna play on your worst fear. Some of them are pretty decent, and some of them are just ridiculous. I mean, yeah, the Bible says it'll be like that eventually. And yeah, we're heading straight for it, lickety split. But hopefully not in our lifetime. Problem is, the ones taking over, we pretty well watered them down. And I include myself on that. But learn how to fix things. Get you some books. Get some seeds, but not genetically modified seeds. Real seeds, heirloom. Stock up. Me and my wife, we wished there for a month or 2 that we'd stocked up. And to this day, if that happens again, who knows? We may lose power and everything else, but we won't go hungry. I mean, that's the one thing we want. Do I show you mine? No. I usually don't even try to discuss mine. Yeah, it's good to be in the network. Problem is a lot of times you have people that listen or hear, and they say, I know where I'm going, but just use your head on prepping. I mean, it's like anything. It can be good, and it can be just plumb bad. And on your canned food that you got stored and all your other food you got stored, if you see that it's getting close to expiration date, and you've done like these people here, and you've stocked more crap than you're going to eat before it goes bad, and probably, truthfully known, most of it already is bad. But go through it, you start getting close to an expiration date and you know you can't eat it, take it to a food bank somewhere or to a church that feeds people. Don't let it go bad. But anyway, that's my take on uh, prepping. I seen that one guy and it just blowed my mind. I thought, no, he's not serious. Surely to God, he's not serious. He was serious. So if you're going to be a prepper, be a smart one. Books is one of the most overlooked things that there is. And yet, even though there's been accounts of people that have went through, uh, like when Argentina fell, the guy wrote a diary, kept a diary. One of his things is he wished that he had more books. Because if you don't have internet or your cell phones or a buddy that can do something, then your best bet's for the book. Because that way you can do something. And who knows, maybe you'll even make money out of it. Or at least barter. I really don't foresee this. I mean, that's just, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm not saying it won't eventually happen. But it ain't going to be happening anytime soon, I don't think. But getting back on the food, you need to at least have seeds, have your own seeds. You don't have to have a ton of them, but you have to have your own seeds. Just the things that you like. And then if you ever do get the opportunity, then, you know, you'd have something to barter with. And two, the seeds are going to be better than money in the bank. But, I mean, they're all into, like, this one's bug out. We got how to build a bug out vehicle. If you drive through what will look like an apocalypse, like we're saying, in that, you're going to draw attention. And the way you do it is you hide in plain sight. This is not hiding in plain sight. And you see weapons, and you always see these real cool shotguns and rifles. And I believe those are necessary. But what you don't see is garden tools. You don't see hand tools. And weapon wise, you only see the rifles. You seldom, if you ever, see the archers, you know, the bow and arrows. I don't know, maybe because it's so expensive to ship them. Maybe because they're not so mass produced. But even that's got a catch to it. Because if you go out and you buy a bow and arrow, I mean, Daryl on The Walking Dead looks pretty cool with his crossbow. Problem is, that thing has to, shoots out so much pressure. You have to have special made bolts, depending on, the pressure. In other words, you can't go through the woods and pick up a stick and make an arrow out of it. And the same goes with the compound. Yeah, they're nice now. But what happens if you can't buy arrows for it? Guns, same way. What happens when you can't buy the bullets? They don't have to outlaw the guns, just take away the bullets. One of the most laughable things I've seen lately has been people putting up pellet guns and BB guns, telling everybody, hey, it'd be good to train with. But all you're going to do, if it's really this huge scenario where everything goes to hell in a handbasket, you do realize shooting somebody with a pellet gun or a BB gun that's coming after you is only going to piss them off. But, yeah, you should have. Actually, that's a pretty good lineup right there. But, you get down to something like that. Tell me you ain't going to draw attention to that. Another thing too is, I mean, we got flooded out here in East Tennessee. I know we've decided to cut our herd back to probably half because we lost about a third of our pasture. But we're all small here, right? Around through here. But in the Mideast, they've just been slammed. And that's for, if I'm not mistaken, some of the feedlots are big feedlots, and it's gotten into their feed because that's what they depend on. They don't have grass out there where the feedlots are. It's gotten into their feed, then that's a recipe for disaster because they're going to be running out of food to feed their animals. And they raise a lot of corn, soy, wheat. I've heard a couple of things too. So if they continue to lose, and I know here there's low spots that still has what looks like a pond in it, I can't begin to imagine just how bad that is. I mean, you take places like this, that's his whole everything gone. If you don't think that's going to have an impact on our food, I forget what else they raise. I think potatoes is one of the other things. But if you don't think that's going to have an impact on our food, most of it's by convenience foods. And if you look at the ingredients, pretty much everything has corn and soy. So they're going to be trying to hold back for their cattle, which is, that's only fair. But right now we got a real recipe for disaster. What with us getting into it with Russia and China, uh, the banks have become unstable, and now this. I mean, this is our bread basket. That's the bread basket that went down. It's a real recipe for disaster.